That's the type of words that come out from a person like this, where it's totally untrue, totally manufactured, and it's a real shame that someone like this is the so-called leader of this community. It doesn't speak well for the city of Racine that we would put someone like this in that position.
Well, he's promised to leave at the end of June.
Good riddance.
We're back. Jim Spodek, George Meyer, Dr. Jorgen, and we're going to explore the veracity of Mayor Dickert in this particular segment. This is a follow-up to episode 22 of Talking Racine. And the big question that we're going to start this with is, did Mayor Dickert know the Merediths? George, you got a couple of comments on this, I believe.
Well, let's roll it. I want to see the thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're right. You're right.
About the entire situation has been very unfortunate.
Duke Meredith speaks for the family at a press conference Friday.
All right, now here we have a shot all together. Let's recognize, label those people. Jim, who's there at the
Native American. From
right to left, right?
John Dickert.
Right.
Meredith, and another Meredith.
All right. Now there, he obviously knows the Merediths, right? Which takes us to our next exciting portrayal or a depiction of John Dickert. Can we roll up to it?
Let's roll.
Now we're going 2 years later, right? Now,
2015.
At a deposition wherein the mayor is under oath.
The top?
Yeah. So who is Meredith referenced in the top email of Exhibit 1578?
I have no idea.
You don't know who the Meredith contribution is from?
No.
Would it be appropriate to break down a single contribution into 10 anonymous contributions?
I don't believe that's possible.
You don't believe it's appropriate?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the law is, so I'm not...
So there you have it, folks. Now, he's under oath with that. Sworn testimony. He's saying he doesn't know who this contribution came from. He doesn't recognize the Merediths.
No idea.
No idea. Jim, this is just a little bit of the deposition. Apparently there was a big uprising afterwards. I mean,
and we'll come to it in some other future episodes, but at this point, this is the second day of testimony or deposition by John Dickert. At this point in the deposition, they're kind of coming down on campaign contributions. You know, where'd you get this? How did this come? When they ask him, they ask him, is it possible to break down a contribution into $20 anonymous contributions? Well, of course you can't do that. What you're doing is hiding a cash contribution.
Yeah, you can't do it legally. You can't do it if you're lying.
When they talk to him, that's an email that they have from, I believe, his campaign manager saying, what do we do with the Meredith contribution? He says, can we break it down into anonymous $20 donations, which would then fall under anonymous. Now, how much it was, we don't know. But there was an obvious, I don't know who the Merediths is. Well, you obviously do know who the Merediths are. And the reason you don't want to admit to it is because there's a connection. And, well, we just tied the connection.
The point was there's a connection and there's a disavowal of knowing this person. We have a mayor that has perjured himself under oath.
Correct.
And this is very serious. All right, so now let's, the next thing that we want to look at is this, when we get to this allegation of Sandy Weidner, you were brought up, Jim, as being in opposition to this Mound thing, this whole Indian
Correct.
thing. Is that a...
Let's play the clip, and then we'll comment on it.
All right.
I need a little time.
In response, let's take a trip down memory lane. You actually were concerned about the family that applied for this lot, and you had was not there with just a Native American tribe, because there was no actual tribe. There was some tribal members, but as you recall, Mr. Spodek and I'm speaking, Alderman Weidner, and if you please, I allowed you to speak, but now it's time to allow me to respond to your comments. Mr. Spodek and a group of others were actually doing videos of your protests there, because at the original time that you had requested some concerns about this, you had actually had a group there.
Okay.
So you were videoing. I mean, the
Correct.
previous episode, episode 22, was you videoing it. But what was your attitude towards this, Jim?
Well, you know, at the
were you
point-
in opposition at that time? Were you coming
Well,
out?
you know what the interesting part was that I had gotten a call from a videographer that said they're going to dig up a mound, and obviously that's a big deal. I knew
Now,
there'd be
mound,
something.
by the way, just so everybody understands, if you
Native
miss the
American
argument, a mound is people, they're actually buried upright,
Correct.
facing the east, and that's why it's a mound, because they're
And
not
it's
down on
Mound
the ground.
Cemetery. So
Yeah, they're
hearing that,
upright.
and there was some scuttlebutt. I got a call. I said, "Yeah, come on down." I didn't realize that I'd be using this 5 years later, but yeah, I was down there basically filming, and it was an interesting subject. You know, he says, "Well, you were there with this, what do you call it, a group that was in opposition." Quite frankly, at that time, I actually did not. I knew who Sandy Weidner was, and I knew who some of the commission just, kind of just generally knew. But I was really there filming, and those ladies, and I just want to say something about those ladies. Those ladies were great to film, and they were the ones that really put this.
Well, they stood up for what was
That was the
right.
ladies on the
which was
cemetery
on the
commission. where-
cemetery commission. I followed those ladies because I knew that they were the ones that were actually protecting that site. Now, when he talks about, there was more people there than the
Indian tribe?
yeah, the tribe. You have to remember, when I was down there filming, this had already gone through these consuls, and it had already been to the consul. They were going to come down and probe that site. And when I got there,
What time was that about?
that was about 7 a.m. in the morning. And they said, well, the word was that they're going to slip this probe into the cemetery early when no one's there. So the Native Americans weren't there. And there were quite a few, because the night before I had filmed them doing a drum circle and some other things. And I actually got to know some of the members of that particular tribe. Very nice people. And the next morning, I was up early, actually went to get a donut at Benson Bakery across the street, and was watching, because if they were going to come early, I wanted to see what was going on. And that's when I noticed that the Native Americans had a couple people there that stayed, I think, all night guarding that site. So it was a pretty kind of an interesting
But you
story.
were just there as a newsman.
Yeah.
Sorry, you
Well,
were in
it was just,
opposition to it. You were
at that
covering
time,
it.
it was more hobby, and I was thinking, this is good stuff. And I enjoyed the Native Americans,
And
but
Sandy Weidner was new to you. Some of those shots
Actually,
people saw that you were.
I had actually, at the time, those questions were asked by different people, and I literally was just there taking film, and I've got a lot of short clips and a lot of different things. But when the mayor brought my name up, I thought, well, this is, there's videos out there, guy, and I'll show you a couple,
Well, the most
Honor.
disturbing thing about his presentation here is he characterizes the Native Americans and anybody else that was down there as an opposition force. They were a protective
including the
force.
news guy covering it, Jim Spodek.
Yeah.
I mean, now this is a mayor that we just saw him perjuring himself.
Yeah.
I mean, something like this is relatively easy for him to do if he can do something like what we just saw him do under oath, for him to just make this up.
And that's why we put that all together. And actually, Scott Nelson put a lot of that video stuff together, and he was down there.
Scott Nelson was the prior. He used to run Car 25.
Correct. And he actually put a lot of the videos out. I had some stuff that I had videoed, and I just kept. I never put out. But when he mentioned my name, and I thought, let's bring out some of this stuff.
All right, now we get into the real crux of it, and that's his attack on one of our aldermen who's doing the most of any alderman in trying to clean up some of the stuff going on at City
Right.
Hall.
And one of the things I want to again bring up is those ladies on that cemetery commission were staunch and protected those mounds, and very, very interested in the history of that. And Steve Bayard from the director, he also was another one that was very interesting.
Well, they were living up to the responsibility that they had on that commission.
Right.
Now there was some type of agreement you mentioned a little earlier about buying this land.
Right.
Now that was going to be done by the tribe itself, right?
Correct.
Well,
the Indians that wanted to protect
if you
it.
notice in here, Mayor Dickert is the one who suggested that the Native Americans buy that land to prevent any future controversy.
Yes, we just heard that, right?
And it's land that they own.
Yeah,
Right. But you have to create a
why would they
problem
buy
by
land
for
they
him to
own?
solve the problem. You know, I have to sell this land to the Merediths, so I have to create this problem. We don't have any money. We've got to sell this land.
But-
and then when it backfires, well, they owe us that money. I mean, it's very
Yeah.
almost arranged.
Yeah, and that money would just go to solve some of the other cities' financial problems. It wasn't going to solve any financial problem of the cemetery commission. I mean, they're all right with their.
This is how crazy
their
it
books are
is.
balanced.
It's like he made an offer to me to buy your car. And it turns out that the deal cannot be struck for whatever legal reasons. And so I tell you, okay, you owe me the money
Yeah,
that he would have bought your car for.
Yeah,
And that's how crazy it is.
Well, it's deception, and and John Dickert really, in this particular instance,
All right, so they were going to settle that by selling the land for like $20,000. Is that what the original deal was?
Yeah, I think the purchase.
And they got it raised $1,000 of it, so there was still $19,000.
That's what they're saying, but there were actually more. Now they actually went out, and I didn't film any of that, but they did go out and do some events, and it was actually more than 1,000. And this was over a 10-year period, because I remember talking to I think it was Brown with the tribe, and he said it's over a 10-year period. So when he comes up and talks about this, yeah, they
But
may
the
not
point
have
was, the tribe itself was raising the money.
correct.
Alderman Weidner,
No.
with
Matter of
nothing
fact,
to do with it.
They had trouble finding venues in Racine because I think they got a little bit blackballed in Racine. They actually did one in Kenosha, and they raised, I know, 1,000 at that one. At some point future, I remember them delivering the $1,000, and then there was more monies that were kind of coming in. But the fact is, they shouldn't even have to raise anything.
No,
it's there.
That
Right.
speaks to their compassion and
Right.
their honor. If they
Right.
said, well, okay, you wanted to sell this and you were unable to sell it because of legal treaty reasons, but, you know, we
We'll try and
understand it's a
cover the money, yeah,
controversy, and we will voluntarily, at the mayor's request, give that amount of money to the city.
Okay.
Right. Now, one other step before we get to the final phase here is Sandy Weidner had been on this, Alderman Weidner had been on this commission for 14 years,
Right.
as you'll hear her say. A long time, and she just felt it was time, let somebody else do it. Actually, it was longer than that.
It was 16 years.
Yeah, I think by the time she retired. And here's another interesting little sidelight, because I talked to Alderman Weidner about this. When she resigned it ended on a certain day. I think the month was in March or April. It ended on a certain day, that in early part of the month. They had another meeting coming up in the later part of the month, which she showed up. She had forgotten about this date thing. So she goes up because this will be the last meeting of her year. They get
Right.
reappointed every year. She shows up and they say they totally ignore her. Said, "You're not on this commission anymore. Your thing officially ended per the document, and so you're not a member and you have no right to say anything and no right to vote at this particular meeting." Well, she just kind of sat there and did that. She just swallowed it, looking, feeling a little bit maybe foolish, whatever, but she admitted they were right. So she is not even on the commission at this point. They've taken her off.
Right. Right.
And now we get to the
This was a setup. It was a setup so he could put this out there and try to embarrass her,
Yeah.
which,
Can we listen to her program?
Not very gentlemanly,
No,
to
not
say
at
the
all.
very least.
Yeah.
all right, we'll go back to listen to Sandy now.
Years ago, you and a team of people, which were opposed to the purchase of a parcel of the Mound Cemetery, arguing that the parcel was a Native American burial mound. As a matter of fact, you held demonstrations, which is not true, with a number of organizations. There was one group of people, and those were the Native Americans.
Now, if you saw the previous episode, you saw an awful lot of that. I never saw anything
Yeah.
even close resembling
No.
a demonstration. You certainly weren't part of it.
No.
You were just videoing it, and I didn't see anybody holding signs or anything there. People were just walking around looking at it. All right.
Right. No, the Native Americans came out, had some ceremonies, and really protected that site. Is really what they were there for.
They were concerned about compliance with a 150-year-old treaty.
Right. And so now, mind you, she's reading an email from the mayor, and the mayor's talking about demonstration. Our perjured mayor that can't get it straight what Jim was doing there.
We'll hook
Here
it
we
up.
go.
Yeah.
Many of which I believe you are still working with, which I don't know why anybody would think that.
She was never working with him in the first place. What this is a setup. He's looking at. I think he's looking at Jim Spodek, trying to claim that she's working with him,
Right.
which you weren't at the time. All you were doing was taking videos.
Correct.
He's perpetuating that lie.
Right.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a setup, and that's.
We should be more somber about this because it's a serious thing. But when something gets this sad and this ridiculous, you almost have to laugh just to get through it.
I mean, how low do you want to go?
Yeah,
Really,
I don't want the viewing audience to get all upset about this. Just recognize this is who's heading this city.
Demanding that the site was historic and should be protected. As you recall, I invited the tribes that build mounds. Actually, he invited a firm that excavates mounds to determine if there is something or someone buried within that mound, to Racine to determine if the site was actually a mound.
We saw that on the prior video.
Right.
Yeah.
The mayor's, again, got things a little confused. He thinks the Indians were coming out to survey the mound, and that wasn't the case, as Alderman Weidner points out. That was kind of a lot of additive to his email. His email says the Indians came out to survey the mound. And we saw in the video where there was a professional crew that comes out and digs in there.
Is he implying that he hired mound builders that have all of this equipment for testing to see if a site is a
And this
mound or
is
not?
also the mayor at this time said that he had he understood the Native Americans because he had Native American blood in him also. So I mean, anything went.
Yeah.
I mean, you just say it and
Right. So he's claiming that the Indians have gone out there, and we saw in the video, obviously regular, come from European Americans. Let's
Right.
call them European Americans. they were out there, and they're the ones that refused to dig on it, right?
Correct.
In the meantime, there were some other Indians were going to a court.
They were trying to get an injunction.
against
They were
it.
starting to get an
So
injunction.
that's all that's going on.
Yeah,
very
there's a lot
early
going
in the
on
morning,
at this time here.
Without clear evidence that it was a mound, you and your opposition organization, which was a group of Native Americans, stated that you, I never said this, would raise the money to pay off the loss of $40,000.
Doc, let's just reiterate what you said.
Mm-hmm.
They were donating money to something that didn't need to donate to.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
That was part of a treaty. It was their land originally. It went into this area under the agreement. It would not be disturbed. There should be no reason for them to do that.
Donating, and now he's trying to make it sound as though it's a debt
That's
owed,
Yeah.
and that somebody's in default on a debt. Maybe like is going on down at Machinery Row. Let's
Yeah,
not.
wait.
We'll not go. We won't go there.
all right. Now we're gonna go. To Mayor Dickert.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what he's got to say.
What's your point of order, Alderman Weidner?
Mr. Mayor, you are not speaking to the motion.
I'm speaking in response, Alderman Weidner.
You
So
don't
thank
have-
you. The motion is to remove you from the committee, and I'm responding to your response to be removed from the committee.
I would just like to make a point here. The reason the alderman was interrupting him was because it was a point of order. The mayor at this point is in gross violation of Robert's Rules of Order, which the council is supposed to adhere to. He is the chair of this meeting. He is not allowed to speak on the issue. The only way he could speak on the issue at this point is to give up the chair. He has to step down from it. He has to find a member of the body that has not spoken on it.
Mm-hmm.
So Alderman Weidner would not be able to do it because he's already spoken on it. But it's a member, and this member must also be willing to not speak on it at all. He's going to be the chair. So he is in violation now of municipal ordinance in violation of Robert's rules, because the municipal ordinance says that they must follow Robert's rules, as he's speaking right now, and Alderman Weidner is just trying to get him to follow the rules. And by the way, just a picture that you can't see, just to his right, to your left, is sitting the city attorney, Scott Letney, who knows the mayor is doing this because he knows these rules too, and he does not do anything to call a point of order as a parliamentarian to help with the point of order. This is how bad it's gotten in the city, and with this particular mayor.
So I'm trying to resolve the concerns that were brought up. So Alderman Weidner, the group that we brought was the Mound Builders. Alderman Shakur, let me just respond.
Alderman Shakur is trying to shut him off because here's what this is a thought. He's already mentioned my name twice. Mm-hmm. So it's obviously he was kind of distracted by it, but I can tell you where I think he wanted to go. He wanted to attack, and he wanted to attack this show because this show is now, I'm sure, has issues because, yes, Your Honor, we do have videos, and I've got a lot of videos, and a lot of this information is now compiling to expose the kind of leadership you've done to the city in the last 10 years.
I don't think he's aware of this show. I mean, if he doesn't know who the Merediths are, how could he possibly know who we are?
That is, you know what? You might have some.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're just getting swell-headed thinking
come up with something like that.
Somebody as important as the mayor would know who we are.
I was honored, but I guess I shouldn't be.
If you're out there, Mayor, welcome for the first time.
The group that we brought were actually a group of Native Americans called, and their tribal name is not as important as their history because they are the mound builders. They were not there to dig into the mound. They were not there to destroy the mound. They were actually there to do a historical relevance and history sighting to determine if the mound was there.
Whoa. Now, let's go back here a second. These were some Native Americans that was not a tribe. They were just showing up. They were just wandered. They just kind of drove past the cemetery.
Just members of the tribe, but they don't count as a tribe.
They're not a tribe.
Opposition group.
Opposition members, kind of renegade.
Oh God, there's a hot word.
Yeah. But here's the thing. It obviously doesn't have a name. His tribe, the name is not important.
Where was this tribe? Is he talking about the engineers that came in a truck?
Think that's what Sandy said. It was the guys that were going to do the bore samples.
He's calling them mound builders,
Mound builders, or mound
borers.
Yeah,
the mound borers were,
But again,
European Americans.
Here's the thing. Somebody watches this, they think, oh boy, he had these people come down and they didn't charge, and it's all bogus.
And you're going to get to the next part here where it's going to sound really bad, but I mean what he's saying about Alderman Weidner. But I hope by now we've set it up to show that this is all made up, it's manufactured, it has no validity in its content, but the mayor on public TV, on official council floor, has the audacity to make the statement that's about to come up.
So in doing that, they had asked us to set this aside, but Alderman, you and your group had actually stated that you would take care of those funds. So we're short a significant amount of money, and all I'm simply asking you to do is live up to your word to the Cemetery Commission and not leave them in a hole, as you had promised us with your group. So if you're not willing to do that, I'm sure the council will be happy to take you off, but I was just hoping you'd live up to your word because that Cemetery Commission is in a hole. That site still sits there. And the people that were going to invest in our cemetery are not doing that any longer. So, thankfully, the mound builders were kind enough to work with us and come all the way down for free to talk to us and do an assessment. But to say that you had a tribe or any tribe of people that were working on this, there were Native Americans there, but your group was far exceeding the Native American group. Alderman Weidner, I believe there's a whole series of videos to prove that, but I think it's important just to be honest with the public about this, and we really wish you'd live up to your goal. But
it's important to be honest with the public. How can he even have the gall to speak that statement?
Yeah, and he called mound builders. They were the mound borers. He said the mound builders were there.
Yeah.
It could have been. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He might have misspoken. He's a little nervous there when you're spewing forth this stuff.
This guy
you can
never misspoke.
You think he meant the mound builders? Because the mound builders obviously were never called there. They
were mound borers.
Those are Indians. The Indians were the mound builders.
Right.
The mound borers were the ones that
They came in, they didn't do the job, so they didn't get paid. So they came down from wherever, Madison, Milwaukee. They never made it from Madison because they called them and said, don't come down. So the guys that were out there ahead of time, just kind of surveying it, were the ones that said, whoa, we're not touching this.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
But you saw what he said about Alderman Weidner and how she was in disgrace because she wasn't keeping her word and all this type of stuff. That's the type of words that come out from a person like this, where it's totally untrue, totally manufactured, and it's a real shame that someone like this is the so-called leader of this community. It doesn't speak well for the city of Racine that would put someone like this in that position.
Well, he's promised to leave at the end of June.
Good riddance.
Double it.
If you don't want to do that, we can see that. You can take yourself off the commission, and we'll find somebody that will help in filling that gap of $39,000. So the committee vote before you is an amendment.
Well, that kind of finishes it. You know, the gap in $39,000. There is no such gap. I mean, it's another made-up thing. They were going to get 19,000 and
For land that couldn't be sold.
Yeah, So it's there. The city spends $80 million a year.
Lost $7 million. This mayor lost up to $7 million on Machinery Row in excess, and now we're dumping how much more money on an arena?
Yes.
The rest of the aldermen, all they do is sit here and then they don't investigate. They don't know. So
It was a 7-7 vote on something that should have been pretty obvious that you can't do.
I'm going to vote to give somebody a historical 2,000-year-old site. I mean, is there any critical thinking sometimes? It's just amazing to me.
Do either of you have any doubt that maybe he lobbied those 7 council members before that vote?
I think
the council initially voted it down, and apparently that vote didn't meet with his expectations, so he created an air of confusion, and eventually they called for a new vote, that's simply not done.
No.
So they called for a new vote and a voice vote, and Alderman DeHaan changed his vote from no to yes to approve the sale.
He didn't get the memo. He just got confused. He didn't get the memo.
Which made it a tie vote because one council member was absent that evening, and who knows how he would have voted. He was absent, so because it was a tie, then the mayor
was absent for a reason.
The mayor broke the tie to approve of the.
You got to remember, this guy is very. I said it early on. He's a very, very good politician. He's very good in the art of deception, and this is just one of many. But
all right, and if you follow these last 2 episodes carefully, you now know more than 13 other aldermen, at least, probably 14 aldermen on that council. Mm-hmm. This is the type of issues that's going through the council constantly.
Yep.
And that's why we're here. We want to at least show what's really going on behind these scenes.
And you need strong alderpersons to be put in those positions. If you're going to turn a city around, you need strong members in that.
Well, that's our
council.
slogan: things you might not know about your city.
Well, that's true.
Talking Racine.
So we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for watching.